Right, let's see if I can do a video, just a quick one, of a few weights moves for you to practice whilst I'm away this coming week. You don't need to do all of them in one go, but I'm going to do them in an order where it might work if you wanted to do all of them in one go. So the weights I've got are some 2 kilo ones and one lighter one, but just thinking about what I've planned to do, I might not need this one, maybe for the butterfly. This is 1.25. So for most of you, around the 2 kilo, 1.5 kilo, 3 kilo is probably fine. For some of the stronger ones, if you're doing the row and you've got a heavier weight, you could easily get up to 5 or more kilos. The key is not how much weight you're shifting, it's how you're doing it, of course. So let's start with a heavier weight. So go for the heavier end of the scale. And we're just going to see if we can loosen up the shoulder. I'm going to do each one quite quickly. I've got a neighbour who started doing some DIY, so I'm hoping you won't hear that. So we're propped up on one arm and leg, so your back isn't doing the work. And there's a dangly arm. So my feet are quite a long way apart, lengthwise. And I'm just going to get this arm that's holding the dumbbell to just swing loosely, just forwards and back. So it's like a pendulum. There's not really any effort. I have to add a little bit of movement to keep the momentum going. And then we could do the weight moving in and out. I'll turn again so you can see it's moving in and out. No, it's just dangling. I'm not making a lot of this happen. I'm encouraging it. And then we can see if it'll do some circles. Again, they'll only be very easy, dangly. See how dangly you can get your arm to feel once you start it in the right direction. And see if you can change the direction. Really easy. And you could make a sort of a star shape. So you might go diagonal, front and back, the other diagonal, and you can change the direction the palm is facing in as well. So notice what it feels like if the palm is facing in, if it's facing backwards. Be careful if you do facing out, that's nice, but just be careful, not all bodies will like it. And palm facing forwards, same thing, might not like it, but quite nice for them to experience. Okay, then swap sides. So really there isn't a hard and fast rule, except I don't want your back to ache. So we're using this arm to prop us up if possible. You can also prop yourself up. On the bed won't work because it's too soft really, but on the kitchen surface, a tabletop, something like that, you can prop yourself up on that instead of using your leg. The leg's just there because in the class we don't have something we can put our hand on other than our own leg. So we've got this dangly arm thing going on. It could be forwards and back. The trick is to really relax this shoulder. Let it feel dangly. And then we could try side to side. How long you spend on each one is entirely up to you. We could try some circles. So I'm not making it happen. That's what it look like if I'm making it happen. Notice my whole body's moving. It's just a really lazy dangle. I'm not gripping the weight very tightly either, but be careful with your toes. We could try circling it the other way around. We're definitely more on the duck end of the scale, so try not to be rounded. What else do we need to know? We've got the star shape. So I call it star shape. It's perhaps more of a compass. You're going to each of the directions of the compass, going diagonally. So from left to right, forwards and back. Or to be northwest to southeast, that kind of thing. And again, have a go at changing where your palm is facing, just to see how that feels in your shoulder. Don't get too hung up on what direction it's going in, the swing. Just let it be lazy and dangly. Okay. And then we'll stand up and we'll grab a weight in each hand. This might be more towards the medium to light end of the scale. Depends how happy your shoulders and back are. So the idea here is that the weights help us to swing the arms loosely. So each arm feels like a pendulum hanging from the shoulder. And I'd like you to feel and sense and see that your spine is turning in response to these arm swings. Obviously, it might be too late by now. Look out for things behind you at home when you're doing this move. Keep your chest proud and your shoulder blades down your back. You'll find that your back is much happier with that set up than if you're slightly leaning forward or stooped. And pull your head back, chin back slightly towards your throat. And if you wanted to, you could do that deliberate arm swing. We're not like pendulums anymore. We're forcing these things and feeling foot muscles and leg muscles and abdominals working. And then go back to that nice lazy swing again. Okay. Next, we're going to do that rowing move. So if the heaviest weight you've got is 2 or 3 kilos, go with that. I'm going to grab this 4 kilo, which is handy. Heavier is slightly better on this because we're looking at these big séance muscles. They're massive muscles down your back. And you'll feel what they need to do much more if you have a heavier weight. So the weight's going to be in your stronger arm. You're propped up with the other arm. Again, you can use a stool, a chair, a table, something stable that you can lean on instead. I could pull this chair here and prop myself up on that. Yeah. So then this arm is just dangling and you're not worried about your leg sliding and not being able to prop yourself up. So I'll stick with the chair perhaps, although it'll creak. So if I really relax my arm and shoulder, can you see how this shoulder just came forwards and down? I'm now round shouldered. So what we're going to do is bring that shoulder blade towards the spine and down my back. Hopefully just seeing the shape of my spine change as well as the shoulder position change and my neck get longer. So from there to there. That might be all you play with first. A mirror is really helpful for this, by the way. And then from here we might bring the weight back. So really it's the elbow that's going back. The weight comes to the hip. Can you see the weight's pretty much in line with the angle of my spine? It's not down or parallel with the floor. As soon as I move it this direction, it brings my shoulder forward. Yeah. And as soon as I move it more in line with my spine, it brings my shoulder down. Notice the elbow position as well. So the elbow is going to go back. Shoulder blade first, elbow back. It's going back rather than up. So we're not pulling up, we're pulling back. And the weight might come to your hip or your waist, and it's pretty much in line with your spine, the angle of your spine. Okay, you can do more on that side if you want to. I'm going to swap sides. Hopefully. Okay, so we've got one leg in front. The leg that's in front is the one that has the weight. Okay, that's nearly always the case except for on the heel rocker. The leg that's in front will have the weight. We're propped up with an arm, so the back isn't doing the work. We're on the duck end of the scale. The weight is rounding our shoulder and our upper back until we decide to slide the shoulder blade down the back and towards the spine. For those of you who know you're a bit round-shouldered, have trouble with neck and shoulders and posture, just this bit could be really good, because once you start to do this, the body might go for rounding the back, rounding the shoulder. Talking of rounding the back, each time you pull the weight back and you push your heart forward. Let your spine turn a little bit in the direction of the arm that's doing the pulling, and be aware that when you're on your weaker side, there's more bodging likely to occur. So look out for the wrist tucking under, for example, or the elbow going out. It stays close. It does stay very close by your side. So we've got shoulder blade down the back, elbow back, weight in line with your spine pretty much. Shoulder blade down the back, so it's always feeling spacious here. Yep. Okay, let's pop this out of the way. So that's what we'd call a pulling move. You're using your biceps, the light on, front of your arm, and your back muscles and the back of your shoulder. So now we're going to do a pushing move, which is different muscles. That's the good news. So your arm might feel tired, but hopefully, because we're using different muscles, even though it is still the arm and the shoulder, it won't be quite so bad after having done that pulling move. So again, probably towards the lighter end of the scale for this one, because the weight's going overhead. And I want you to be able to straighten, I have to kneel down to show you, straighten your arm when it's overhead. The straighter you can get it, the more you're going to work the back of your arm muscles. If it stays bent, you're not actually working those. possibly I want to say at all. The elbow going straight is what works, so you can have this feeling of punching the weight up towards the ceiling. But if your weight is too heavy, that's going to be hard to do, and you're more likely to wobble and get distracted by trying to stay upright. So here we go. We've got your weight in your stronger arm, probably, and the same side leg is forward. Whichever hand has the weight, the same side leg is forward. The other leg is back. Your weight is definitely in the front leg and will stay that way the whole time. This leg is perhaps going to do that kind of thing. We're not stepping back into it at all until we've finished on this side. Okay, and the front knee is bent and always is bent, no matter what's going on. Your arm is right up in the air. The back knee and the elbow that's up in the air are going to come together to meet and then away. Wearing a dark top was not a clever idea, but I think you know where my elbow and knee are. Yeah. Make sure it is your elbow and not your forearm or your wrist. Yeah, it's definitely your elbow. So we're sinking down into this front leg each time. I'll show you sideways on. So I'm bending it more because it can catch me more, making sure the heel's firmly down on the front foot. It's not down on the back foot. Won't land on the back foot at all. Elbow and knee, elbow and knee. Ooh, this will get you out of breath. And then we'll swap sides. So the weight is in the front leg, which is bent. The back knee isn't bent. The back heel is off the floor and will remain that way until we're finished. This arm is going to be straight every time, hopefully. We bring the elbow to the knee, check it is your elbow. It's touching the knee, not the weight, not your wrist, not your forearm. Keep the weight in that front leg so you don't step backwards at all. So we're rounding the spine, straightening it, bending the elbow, straightening it, bending this leg, straightening it, straightening this leg a little, it won't get completely straight, bending it more, breathing, checking the toes are relaxed on the supporting leg, that might be enough. Okay, all right, we've got another pulling move. So using those back muscles again, front of the arm muscles, back of the shoulder. So again, a different set of muscles, similar ones to the ones we were using here, because it's a similar move. So we've got the feet wide. We're adding a squat into this. So you'll squat until, I'm going to say you lower your bottom until the dumbbell reaches your shin, but you're trying to stay as upright as you can in your torso. Yeah, so what we're not doing is lowering the weight to the shin. We're lowering the bottom until the weight touches the shin. I'm going to stay this way around actually. So we've turned a little bit towards that shin. It's the opposite shin. You'll stand up, pull the weight back. Notice the angle of the dumbbell and the elbow. If the elbow comes up and the dumbbell goes parallel with the floor, my shoulder comes forward, which is not what we want. We want the proud chest, a bit of duck, the elbows almost reaching back and down, to be honest, rather than up. It's reaching back and down. So the shoulder blade goes back and down. So we're going across, diagonally across, putting the weight back. I'll turn to face you again. Notice my elbow is close by my side, it's not out to the side. A mirror would be a really good idea for doing this move. So the feet are wide, the toes are pointing straight forward, the feet stay flat on the floor the whole time. You're sending your bottom backwards, sending your knees forward, sending your heart forward, staying upright. Keep your heart and your eyes looking straight forward. To the opposite shin, so we've turned a little bit that way. We stand, we pull the weight back, which means we're turning a little bit this way. So we lower the bottom and then we pull back. We lower the bottom and we pull back. And I can feel a squeeze around this shoulder blade, the pulling side shoulder blade. I can feel it squeezing back and towards the spine. See if you can feel that squeeze. If you're watching in the mirror, check this shoulder hasn't come up. Well, if it does, it's not just pulling it down, it's changing the angle of your elbow and your forearm and your hand and your dumbbell. Yeah? It's really all it is. Maybe you just have a play, if you found it difficult in the class, with what angle do I need, what do I need to feel? What's the angle of my elbow and shoulder and forearm when the shoulder's level? Okay, swap sides, because you've perhaps hopefully been doing more of those while I was chatting. So we lower the bottom until we can touch the shin, and then we pull back. So the weight goes directly from the shin to the hip. It's not coming to your waist or your ribs, it's not coming up high, it's coming to the side of your pelvis. That's the bony bit, the top of my hip bone. I'm coming to about there, yeah? So across and down, the elbow goes back. It doesn't go up. The elbow's not going up, it's going back. And again, notice that angle of the dumbbell. It's not parallel with the floor. What else do I want to say? And the wrist is not rounding, it's not curling at all. Every so often just check what your wrist is up to. Maybe a couple more. So we're turning towards the leg, we're turning in the direction of the arm that's doing the pulling. Just a slight turn of the ribs and the shoulders. Okay, pop the weight down, probably go for the lighter end of the scale if you've got a choice. Pop the weight down on the floor, further away, where you reckon your hands will end up when you do a plank. So we're going to do our hip hinge, hand down, tip weight into it, next hand, tip weight into it, next hand, tip weight into it, next hand, tip weight into it. I underestimated my height. Plank, bottom backwards, trying to make a sharp angle with your hips, so abduct. Pick up a hand if it feels safe, pick up the weight if it feels safe, place it close to your feet, pop the hand down, return to your plank. Bottom backwards, other hand retrieves the weight, puts it down, and then if you want to, the hand that's just retrieved it places it. The hand that initially placed it retrieves it. Then your plank again, pop the knees down. And there you go. That might be enough. That might well be enough. So we're on the floor now. We're going to stay on the floor. You might want lighter weights, like I said earlier, for the butterfly. Let's drop this a little bit. And you could have heavier weights for the bench press move, which we're going to do. A heavier weight will help with your roll back. You could do a one-arm bench press, to be honest. So many options. Okay, so I've got a dumbbell I've just moved nearer in case I decide I want to use it. So we've got our weight in our hands, held with the palms facing up or facing each other. We do our cold whippet pelvic tilt. We squeeze the heart down towards the belly button. I'm really warm now. As we roll our way down, keep reaching the arm forward, keep your feet on the floor, keep relaxing these muscles. The reason the feet come off the floor is because these are overworking, your abdominals are underworking. It's one of the reasons why I don't encourage you to, when we finish, to sit up, because most bodies will do something like that. They're overusing these muscles, which are already tight on lots of us. It's a much better technique to roll over onto one side. Okay, so we'll do the butterfly. We've got a weight towards the lighter end of the scale. Your arms are out wide, the legs are bent, the feet are flat on the floor. The arms are at shoulder height. I'm going to squeeze the lower back just slightly down into the floor, not really hard, just a little bit. And then bring both arms up. The weight stays in the same hand, and you might do, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 to start with on one side. Let's say I've done 5 or 6. Try and relax the arms each time rather than keeping tension in them or hovering them. Relax them so you start from scratch. You'll work far more muscles in here if you do that. And then you'll swap the weight carefully to the other side. Open the arms out wide. Close them again. Arms out wide. Relax. Close them again. Keep checking what your back is doing. Is it overarching? Does it feel like it's working? Could it stay soft? Notice excess tension. You might be squeezing a buttock, pushing with the leg. I'm finding I'm doing that. It might have to work a little bit to help to stabilize you, but it's not doing a lot. Or at least make sure it relaxes as often as possible. If you want to, you could now see if you can come back up using your weights to help you. So the feet will go further away. We curl the head up, we add a cold whippet, we keep reaching the weight forwards, and we might get back up. It might not work, but we could ask. Maybe what happens is you get to here. That's great. You might do a couple of those. Curl the head up, add whippet, reach your dumbbell towards your knees. Try that one perhaps. Okay, so now we are going to go a weight in each hand. We've got a weight in each hand. We are lying down. We've got the elbows out wide, so they're at shoulder height, like they were before for the butterfly, except that now your elbows are bent to 90 degrees and your forearms are vertical. They're both vertical. They always are both vertical. You squeeze your back into the floor a little, straighten both arms, bring the weights together. The elbows go out wide again. Straighten both arms, elbows go out wide at shoulder height. We just turn, just see, got a different angle. Can't see most of, maybe you can see what my arms are doing. So from there to there. And you might turn the palms to face forwards when your elbows are on the floor, and palms to face each other when the hands are up in the air. Again, check what your back is doing, and really do lower your elbows down and out and wide. You might get a stretch in the front of your shoulders, which is a good thing. You could do as many of these as you feel you want to, really. As long as you're checking that you've got good technique. Straighten your arms again. When we straighten the arms, we get the back of the arm muscles to work. Okay, carefully put the weights down. I'm going to suggest, depending on the weight you've got and your strength, elbows by your sides, then just lower the weights down. And then be careful that you don't roll onto them when you roll over smoothly as you can onto all fours. That's a more valuable move than sitting up from that position. Have a stretch. Have some more stretches. Don't forget while you're there, you could have a go at any of these moves. Now you're down on the floor. You could have a go at any of this stuff, being careful that you're not going to land on your dumbbells if you fall. Yeah. Okay, I think that's quite enough. All right, enjoy, and I'll see you soon.